All right. So, Heather Fisher, welcome to Dive Beyond Sport. Thank you so much. Just quickly, so for our audience and for people listening who maybe don't know you or know your story yet, could you maybe give us your quick elevator life story for
Crikey,
us?
my elevator pitch.
That's
So
it. That's it.
I'm Heather Fisher, Rugby World Cup winner, Olympian, Commonwealth Games medalist. Had a career over two different sports and international, from Great Britain bobsleigh to England rugby, England sevens and 15s, and retired at 38. Lost my hair at 25. There you go.
It's
And that
so
was the
true.
most efficient pitch we've had, I think.
Actually, funnily enough, what we were speaking about a little bit about, how do we describe ourselves before we started recording? How do we describe ourselves? Like, who are we now that we're no longer an athlete? But the first thing that you mentioned was Rugby World Cup winner. And I
Yeah.
want to touch on that because obviously the Red Roses have gone on, an incredible run in the most recent World Cup to become world champions again in front of home crowds, record crowds, 82,000 people at Twickenham. Absolutely amazing. How do you reflect on what you saw versus your own experience of your World Cup victory in 2014?
Yeah, obviously, as you guys will know, like, sport moves on every year, doesn't it? If you miss one training session, you feel like you've missed a week of training, let alone miss a week or transition out for 2 years. So it's moved on so much, which is really cool to see where the sport's growing and going. You can't help but admire and have like full admiration, and you're proud of what the sport's achieved and also what the girls have achieved. And then you also can't help but think, God, I wish I was still playing. I wish I was still putting on my shirt, but then I also don't regret anything I've done. And I don't regret the decision of coming out. So it's one of those where I think I miss the spotlight and I miss bouncing around, like hitting people for fun, and yeah, just being on the grass and just smashing people. But the rest of it, I'm just I admire from being far away, and I'm proud of what's been achieved. And it's great to see that girls, and I feel for me, just girls in the sport getting the recognition that they should be.
True, that is great. And I think what one thing you said there, though, one thing I've felt, I wouldn't say I had a massive issue with, but definitely felt is like feeling like, whoa, I'm kind of irrelevant now.
You
We
do
were
feel
talking about
around,
before, like,
yeah.
and I stopped in 2018. He retired more recently, so it's maybe less true for him. But I suddenly felt like, wow, I'm just not, I'm not important anymore. And I wonder if you were kind of touching on that there, and has that been something difficult to deal with in terms of your identity?
I think if I was being totally honest, I think every athlete will go through this phase of, I text one of my ex-footballer mates, and he retired a while ago, and I was like, is it normal that I'm scared that I'm going to enter a stadium and no one's going to know my name? And I think you get to that stage where you're like, the sport moves on, names move on, but it's got to be about a legacy, right? And if I couldn't have left a legacy in 25 years, or didn't leave a legacy, then that's on me. So I kind of sit in this weird place of um miss not playing, like wish I was doing it, wish I wasn't. What if they forget my name? What if they have already forgotten my name? Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And then I go, hold on a minute, Fish, your feet are still on the ground, it's okay. Every athlete goes through this at some point. You're in a place that I think many are in but no one speaks about, so it's really nice that you guys are speaking about it. But it's quite a scary place, because I think you feel quite lost at times, and especially like you guys just pointed it out, like the World Cup's been massive, and I've not really been a part of that World Cup, full stop. But that is okay. And I think when you get to that stage where you accept the journey you've been on, and you accept that it's okay that you're not there because it was your choice to come out. Like, if you guys wanted to carry on diving, and I want to carry on play rugby, I could. I just have to adhere to A, B, and C, right? But I chose to come out, and I think we have to take ownership of that choice. And it's not easy, because when our body still goes, right, you feel like, oh, I could just be doing that, and everyone would still know my name, and I could be doing that now. And then you think, oh gosh, but then the early sessions, the late sessions, the diet, the nutrition, the plan, this, like, everything that goes around, the bits that people don't see. Like, we see the spotlight, don't we? As athletes, we see the spotlight, but we know that there's something beyond the spotlight. And that is the character it takes to get in day out, daily, to just go and go and go again, and to keep pushing beyond PBs every single day. And that's the bit that people don't see, and that's the bit I don't miss.
I really like what you said about taking ownership of the choice of retirement. I think that's very powerful. And that's something that I felt like I had, which I was very lucky to have. I know many athletes aren't lucky to have that, and sometimes they're forced out of their sport due to whatever different circumstances might be taking place. But throughout my career, literally until maybe the last 5, 6 months of my career, I could never see myself not diving. I always had my identity with diving, and that kind of came very early on in terms of locking in as a high performing athlete. At what point for you did your identity, or did you decide that your identity laid as a high performance athlete? When did that kind of hit you?
So I knew that I was on the way out when I started to, it's like as an athlete, like you want to be at your very best every single day, right? And the 1%ers every day really matter. And the way you approach training, the way you warm up, the way you look after yourself, the way you recover, what you eat again to be able to go again, the way you do all that is crucial for you to be able to be at your top, in top form. And for me, I knew I was on the way out when I started to lap some of these things. I started to like eat the odd chip. Honestly, I love chips. By the way, guys, I've discovered chips since retiring, and oh my gosh, a Greek chips. Oh my god, divine! I just love chips. Anyway,
Greek chips.
like a big chunky chip. But I started to let those things slip, and I started to realize, fish, you're not here anymore. Like your body's present and your mind is elsewhere. And I think for me, it's slightly different to you guys. I'm slightly older. I'm 41 now. I was 38 when I retired a couple of years ago. And been 38 in a sport that people didn't really know. Slightly different now in 2 years, right? But in being female in a sport that people didn't know, not having the financial backup behind me, it was really scary. I've got all the English shirts in the world. I've got a name. People know me in the stadiums. But what have I got away from my English shirt? And the answer is zilch. There's nothing there. There's nothing, and that's a really scary place to be as an athlete. So I had like the jitters of what now? And I was always going to retire at some point. I knew that, but I knew it was coming then. Yeah, and it was the truth. But then I wanted to stay on, and then COVID hit, and I wanted one more Olympics, and then I got injured and pulled out of the Olympics. And so even though I knew that I was going to retire after Tokyo, I had to pull out of Tokyo, and the road to Tokyo was really, really tough. And even though it was going to be my last games, because of COVID, I don't really know when my last game was. And so it was a bit muddled up, if I'm honest. It wasn't it was on my terms, but it wasn't. And then I think, Fish, should you have gone back and played your last game? Because I don't know when my last game is. And even though I've been out 2.5 years, I've still, to this date now, haven't stopped mentally to work out when it was. So how important is it if I've not even took time to even think about when it was? Like, we all have time to think, right? And I think so much, but yeah, I haven't traced it back to when my last game was. And I also haven't gone, actually, I'm going to put them on one last time. I just haven't put them back on since. Is that crackers or what? It feels crackers saying it out loud.
What's the driver of that though? Like, have you actually been able to think about why you feel that way, or or is it actually just a satisfaction that you're comfortable with not being in it? You don't need to know that.
I think it's the acceptance part. Like, if I can't make a difference in 25 years, what have I done? Is one more game going to make me suddenly a hero? No.
Yeah.
Is one more game suddenly going to make people realize what sort of player I am? And I can't do it in 25 years. The answer is no. So I have to ask myself, why am I doing it? Why? What am I trying to get from it? Because if it's closure, I feel like I have to look within myself internally now for closure. Like, I don't know what it was like for you two, and maybe you can say, but I ran towards sport as a young child. I ran towards it to escape home and to escape where I was in. And I just landed in sport. And I was pretty good at it. And then I've stayed in it ever since. And I've been good enough to stay in it. And I've managed to transition between bobsleigh, 7s and 15s, and just transition between all three sports, which is kind of crackers. No wonder I have no frigging hair. But I now sit here on the other side, and I wouldn't change it in my career, but I did always want 2 Olympics, and I always wanted a winter and a summer. And even when I pulled out of Tokyo, I still had a phone call from Great Britain bobsleigh to say, Fish, we're still trialing out and we're 6 months away. Come on. But I couldn't get in that position from my knee injury, and I had to have an operation. And I just think I'm a great believer that it just wasn't meant to be. And us athletes, we're really good at putting our superhero capes on and we become invincible and we take over the world and people put us on pedestals and we win medals. But friggin' hell, I don't think a medal even gets you a McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? And then you suddenly wake up in this world and you're like, I've just been a professional, you can edit this bit out, but I've just been a professional twat for so many years. I've just been able to run around the field like without a care in the world for so many years since I was 38 years old. And suddenly now I'm having to like understand what a bill is and understand my mortgage, understand I didn't know like gym. I've never paid for a gym membership, and now I'm like paying for like free gym memberships. And like I so much to do, and we've almost probably missed so much. And someone said something really relevant to me recently, my mindset coach. She said, Fish, I think the issue of transition is when athletes transition. So when you start off being an athlete, you're with your peers. You're with your peers at school. You're with your peers at university. You then go into life as your peers, and you have friends. You have friends, and you gain people in your life who go on these journeys with you. But then there's athletes, and we divert off the journey, and we go and do our own thing. And you'll know what it's like being professional athletes. If your mate isn't supporting you, you haven't got time to keep in contact with them. There's no time, and suddenly you get out 20 years later. And you're like, oh, where are my friends? Where's everyone gone? You've done stuff separate to your peers and you're on a different, I feel like every day is like work experience. And I'm just trying to find the next, the big purpose. I've got stuff going on and I'm busy, but my next real fire in my belly purpose isn't there yet. And I have to also be okay with that. And I have to be okay with the fact that in my head, in my head, in my body, I'm an adult, but in my head, I'm still at university, like trying to find out what course I'm doing next. Do you know what I mean? And there's a bit of a disconnect.
I think you touched on so many things that just completely resonate there. Fish, I'm going to call you Fish as well. I want to just jump into that. I like it. And yeah, I think particularly when you talked about, I just like run around on a field and just have fun. It's like that. I used to think that about myself. It's like, what? I literally like jump off a board into some water, and then it's like, and that's like what I do.
Yeah.
Like, what? That's so strange. I was like, this. It was a bit of a clue, I think, into the fact that like the world is a kind of strange place, and there aren't really any rules. You can kind of do what you want, and but I think also the truth as well. Of what you said about you even figuring out how to pay for gym memberships and stuff, because again, that was one of the things where I felt, we're kind of spoiled as athletes, because you don't really, especially in my case.
But at the time, we don't feel spoiled, right? We're like, oh my god, this is like really hard work, and we don't get paid enough, and we haven't got enough kit, and we're in the same trunks as last week, and I can't even, like. There's don't have waterproof. There's so much going on behind the scenes as you were moaning about. But at the same time, our bubble, people say, oh, Fish, you're not in the real world, but that was my bubble. My bubble was real, like your bubble, real. And so it was our real world, and we were really fortunate enough to do that. But you have to pass the baton on at some point and go, I'm checked out now, because there's so much more of life you have to do. And I think it's about getting excited about the fact that I can now eat chips, the fact that like I can go to bed really late and I haven't got to be worried about if I'm tired the next day, it's okay. And I can do whatever I want. And if I want to sit and do nothing, or I can literally do nothing, that's incredible. I haven't got to like push to those strenuous, sick sessions anymore. Do you know what I mean? I can just do what I want, and I've got freedom. But there's just so much to learn along the way. And I think it's safe to say that when I came out of sport, you might be the same as well. I was like, I don't want structure. I don't want any structure. Don't give me any structure. I just want to be able to do what I want to do. And then after about a year, I was like, I think I need structure. And then when I get
exactly the same as that, 100%.
It's hard, isn't it? And you're just as an athlete, and then suddenly you're like, I can't even now stick to getting. I can't even stick to anything on time. I've got no discipline at all now. I'm just like, and it's like a new.
And that's actually why I was quite keen to get into something not as soon as possible, not to rush into it. I kind of had an idea of what I needed to do, but I wanted to embrace that period of freedom and no structure and wake up whatever time you want and eat what you want and everything. But
So
also at the same time, I never fully dived into it.
you know, what time do you wake up? Average.
Now, currently,
Yeah.
now it's like 7 o'clock on
Is
average. Even if I have a lion, like yeah. My body got so trained into being up early that I actually struggle to sleep in. And now because I'm working and I'm coaching, I'm kind of up at those times anyway. But even if it's on a Sunday when I can have a lie-in, I get my 8 hours sleep and my body's like recovered and ready to go.
That's nice. Freddie, what about you?
So I've actually, I used to be pretty crazy because I had the shows.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'd be like leaving the theater at midnight, maybe even later. So and that's after like this adrenalized show, like, and then maybe get some food, and then, so we're talking like 2 a.m. maybe going to bed every night. So I kind of wanted to like come away from that. So actually over the last year and a half, I've actually been kind of like chiseling away at my bedtime, and I'm now similar to Yona actually, and now actually I don't sleep in now either. I can't.
No, I don't. I'm up at like, so since retiring, I struggle to sleep. I feel like I haven't got time to sleep because there's so much to do.
Yeah.
Like I lay in bed the other day and my girlfriend said to me, so I was asleep, and the next day she went, babe, do you remember talking to me last night? I was like, no. And apparently I was going, do I have to go to sleep? I haven't got time for this. I need to wake up. I haven't got time. And I don't remember saying it, but apparently I was just going on saying I haven't got time to sleep. But I generally feel like I haven't got time to sleep. There's so much to do. I've gone from having 9 hours sleep a night to like 5. And I'm up at like 5
Really?
in the morning. Yeah, I'm just like wired. I'm like, right, let's go. What I've got on. I'm tired, but I'm just wired.
Mine hasn't been as dramatic as that, to be fair. Like I used to be so set on 8 hours of sleep to prepare for training, but I realized that I don't need that much now because I don't need to recover my body as much. So I've been trying to train myself into 7 hours sleep, but I've actually been struggling with that, to be fair. Like there's been some nights where I get 7 hours sleep and I'm dying through the day and I need a nap. So I've been trying to like incorporate naps into my daily schedule as well. So
How are you finding?
It hasn't quite.
How are you finding like your 6-pack going, your 8-pack going to a 6 and a 4-pack? How are you finding that?
Slightly disappointed. I've lost like 5 kilos of weight since Paris last year, and that's probably all muscle mass. I didn't really have much fat to lose, and it has been. I've been okay at being in the gym, but actually now that I'm starting this full-time job, it's been a bit more difficult to be frequent and consistent with it. So I've kind of accepted that I'm never gonna rebuild my body in the same way that I was as a diver, but at the same time I kind of don't. I just don't want to I just want to stay fit. I want to stay functional and healthy as much as possible. So if the 6-pack does reduce to a 4-pack, it's not that big a deal.
Freddie, what about you?
Think so. I've always been one of those that, and I feel like this might be different to your story, Heather, but where I always struggled to like gain muscle.
No,
So I've always been
I've
like
never struggled with that, Freddie.
Yeah. So I kind of I envy that actually. That was one of my like big things in my head, that I was like weak, right? And like and I used to like, my inner voice was like, you're not strong enough, you're not strong enough, you're not strong enough. But anyway, so but part of the good thing about that was like I also couldn't really put much fat on either. But I realized like maybe 10 months ago I was in Vietnam, and I was like, I saw a picture of me that my partner had taken, and I was like, wait, that's like that, that little like where your 8-pack could be, but it's not actually muscle, it's like just a little thing. It's like, wait, like, oh my gosh, I'm almost going to be 30 years old, and that's what people say happens, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, that's me. I've got that. Yeah, and it freaks me out a little bit. Really freaks me out.
It freaks me out a little bit. I'm like, oh my gosh, Fish, like I've gone from having like been chiseled to now I'm like, and I remember being in the days, like especially leading to Olympics or World Cups, I'd be like, oh, I found a new muscle, and I would get like, I feel like I've got a new muscle growing because I'd like find different muscles because I was getting leaner and leaner. Now I'm like, oh, found a new little roll. What's this? It's horrible. I'm like, But I suppose it's like just adapting to life, and adapting to life and knowing that you don't have to, like, it's not your body that's got to go now, it's your mind that's got to go, you know?
Yeah, and that's the reality of retirement. Like, obviously, the mind can be more effective and efficient if the body is in a good physical state as well. But it's just much more chilled, I think is the best way to put it. Much more chilled in terms of the approach. But actually, speaking about body, I kind of want to touch on the injury that you experienced in your bobsled career, right?
Which injury?
Um, there was a big spinal injury. Am I correct?
That was in rugby. So I left, but
That was in rugby.
Yeah, I left bobsleigh, and I came
Okay.
back to England's sevens, and I got taken out in the air. So I had the ball above my head, and I went back
Yeah.
and back with the ball in my hands. Obviously, held the ball, which was really cool, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it fractured my lower back in 4 places.
Righty.
It was really tough. I was like early on in my career, coming back from bobsleigh, making a decision to go. I had a decision really early on in my career when I was 24, 25, if I went down the route of my first ever World Cup or my first Winter Olympic Games. I had a choice to take of which one I wanted. And I chose rugby sevens. So then to get injured, that took me out of the game for 2 years. We all know this. I felt pretty invincible as an athlete. And so to go from feeling absolutely invincible and had my career mapped out, and I was actually going to retire at 30. And then I felt like I couldn't retire, and I felt like I had so much to do because I just broke my back, and I was out for about 2.5 years. So that was a long road back to the pitch. I was in a plaster cast from my neck down to my waist for 1.5 years. And I think science is changing all the time, but it was at a time when they scan you and you've got a fracture, then they scan you again and you've got another fracture, they scan you again, and I had 2 more fractures. So I ended up having 4 fractures and I was getting worse. And I suppose it all became about looking at the scan, but then it became about treating the athlete, not the scan. And we started the road to rehab in Bisham Abbey for about a year, and I made it back about 2.5 years later. But that was really tough because it was like, first of all, taken away from what I was doing for my job. Secondly, it was my identity. Thirdly, I didn't know if I was going to be able to go again. The conversations were had quite openly with my stepdad and my mum about, return to the pitch. And Julia Church, my physio at the time, was like, Fish, we've made you as strong as we can in a very controlled environment. But if you get hit from an angle that we haven't trained, or something goes wrong, we don't know if you could be paralyzed or not. And that was a genuine conversation that had to be had before I stepped back out on the pitch. That was scary.
And that's kind of where I wanted to lean into it in terms of that is an incredible injury that is intense, and then to return to such a high impact sport like rugby, like what was the value of the return for you? Like, why did you feel like you needed to push through that despite maybe the advice that you got that maybe it's not the best idea to go back into rugby?
I just didn't want to be defined by an injury. I don't want to be defined by a medal. I don't believe that a medal will make or break me. I don't believe that money should make or break me. And I don't believe that an injury should make or break me, and it shouldn't take me out of my career. Full stop. And that was the only drive I've ever had. And they are the things I speak about, I suppose, all the time, about being defined. I want to be defined by myself, and not by something else or someone else. And yeah, it drove me to carry on. I was pretty scared. I remember stepping out on the pitch, and I took my shirt in and I pulled my socks up 3/4 of the way, and I give myself a bit of a hit, so I'm ready to go. And I look myself in the mirror every time before I step out on the pitch, and I'm like, Fish, you got this. Let's go. It's you or them, and it's going to be you. It's pretty simple. You're going to get flattened, and that was just the way I was. And this time I stood at the back of the tunnel, and I remember just thinking, I've not got this. I've not got it. I don't know what's going to happen right now. And I can remember standing in Hong Kong at the back, and just this feeling was just almost numb but scared, but ready to just go and see what was going to happen. And what was going to happen was going to happen. And I remember taking the first hit and I was like, I'm okay. I'm in one piece. Okay, fish, let's go. You're okay. You've got this. And it was just about feeling my body again and feeling the pitch and knowing that I was okay and I'm going to pull through. And the belief, you know what it's like when you're injured and you're down and out. You know, we're just another number on the notch. You know, we're just another number on the team sheet. And you had to put yourself in a position where I didn't just want to be a number. I wanted to fulfill my shirt and be the very best that I could be for England. So for me, it was about being the very, very best and putting myself back on the map for England. But then it was unfortunate because then I lost all my hair with alopecia and just the stress of the injury and then my hair loss. Oh my God, guys, my identity was like crackers. I didn't know who I was, what I was, and I didn't know. Like, people looked at me differently and I felt differently, and I felt differently anyway, let alone people looking at me differently and the perception of me being different. And then I had to fulfill a role on the pitch, and then I was different off the pitch because on the pitch it was entertainment and I was just filling my shirt. And then off the pitch I was someone else, but I didn't really know who I was. And so when I strip all the layers back, I was just so vulnerable and so lost. And I just kept playing for England, and so kept filling the shirt and kept becoming bigger and larger than life, but then becoming almost further away from really who the real Heather Fisher really was. And it's taken me a good year and a half of transition out of rugby to back into normal life, to just understand who am I and what is driving me, what drove me through my back injury, what drove me through my hair loss, and what drove me to keep going and keep going. And with no money, with you know, great medals and great shirts, but nothing else to my name. Like, what keeps driving you? And I think it has to be the internal, as far in your belly, right? To want to be the very best that you can be and to reach your full potential.
Well, I mean, 100%. And there's so many angles there, Heather, and you touched on
Freddie
so many incredible things.
called me Heather. My mum calls me Heather.
I said I was going to call you Fish as well. Guess. and I defaulted on that immediately. But yeah, let's go Fish. But I think there's so many things, but I feel like one thing, you know, just from doing some reading up and stuff, and I think, you know, you talked about what keeps you going, and I kind of wanted to ask if it was living by your values was one of the things that always kind of keeps you moving forward. And I wondered if that was the case for you, if that's something that you've always tried to do, and if that's the case, like what are those values?
You have to. I think the best people in the world live by their values. Full stop, bottom line, done deal. And I think that's in sport, in business, in life. The most successful people are the ones who know who they are. They know what they bring. They know their values. They know what they stand for. The only rule I had when I came out of sport was no douchebags. And for me, it's about connection. It's about growth. It's about contribution. Like, it's about impact. That's what I care about. And it's about, for me, that encompasses change and purpose. Like, that is what it's about. If you can't have impact on the world and positive change, I don't really know what it's all for. But you have to truly believe in those values. They can't just, so many people pick up values and go, that's what I am, or this is what I want to be today. Values are literally innate in you. And I left England in 2018 just for mental health reasons. I've had glandular fever 5 times now. And I left in 2018 before Tokyo Olympics because I didn't have 2 years in me till Tokyo. I just said, look, I don't have 2 years in me. I need a break. If you want me for Tokyo, I need to leave now. And for me, I'd lost impact. I'd lost connection. I'd lost growth. I lost those 3. I lost contribution. I wasn't contributing. And I just felt like I wasn't growing anymore. And so it was that moment that I had to step back. I didn't feel like I deserved to pick up my England kit. And so I didn't pick up my England kit that season. 8 months later, I came back, and within those 8 months, it was a win if I drew my curtains and went for like a walk and just did a few press-ups. I didn't do anything. I just cried every day. I was in the bottom of the bottom. I had that feeling in my belly that I was just so lost. And so coming back to England 8 months later, I had to just contribute. Then I had to be connected to my people. I had to have have to have the impact in that England squad. And if I couldn't do or be any of that, I don't really see my point of staying in.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And it's amazing to be able to have the confidence to step away in that moment when you know you're not right, because as athletes, I think sometimes the desire is to continue pushing on regardless, because there's no other option. And stepping away is almost more difficult.